Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today's story takes us straight into the heart of political drama, academic criticism, and a bit of Pan-African controversy. It's about none other than the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Julius Malema, and the fiery words launched at him by Professor Moya after Malema's high-profile visit to Nigeria for the Nigerian Bar Association conference in Lagos. Now, Malema is no stranger to controversy. Whether it's singing revolutionary songs, wearing overalls to parliament, or calling out billionaires, he thrives in the spotlight. But this time, the spotlight comes with some sharp criticism from an academic who isn't pulling any punches. Professor Moya has accused Malema of recklessness in his political choices, and the language he used was so blunt, it left many South Africans raising their eyebrows. According to Moya, Malema's political engagements in Nigeria are not just about solidarity and Pan-Africanism, as the EFF would like people to believe. Instead, he suggests they echo long-standing internal concerns that many former EFF members had about the party's direction and credibility. In other words, he's saying this is nothing new. This is part of a pattern. And here's where it gets really sensitive. Moya alleges that Malema's so-called uncontrollable libido towards Nigerians has been a major red flag inside the EFF for years. He claims that when he and other members raised these concerns, the leadership simply ignored them. According to Moya, this failure to address internal issues is one of the reasons why the EFF has been bleeding members, many of whom have since defected to other parties like Jacob Zuma's MK party. Now, if you've been following South African politics closely, you'll know defections and splinter groups are not new. The ANC suffered the same fate with the birth of COPE, then later with the EFF itself. But the timing of these resignations in the EFF matters. They're happening just as the party is trying to position itself as the main voice of opposition in South Africa. And if people are leaving because of frustrations with Malema's leadership style, that raises big questions about whether the EFF can maintain its momentum heading into the next elections. Professor Moya didn't stop there. He went on to call Nigeria Africa's #1 drug dealer country, linking Malema's political ties with Nigeria to its reputation for narcotics and fraud. Now, whether you agree with this or not, the statement is undeniably provocative. It throws shade not only at Malema, but also at Nigeria as a country. That sort of rhetoric is bound to spark backlash, especially when Malema himself was in Lagos talking about African unity, solidarity, and tearing down visa barriers between nations. The irony here is hard to miss. On the one hand, Malema is standing on a Pan-African stage, urging Nigeria and South Africa to strengthen ties, to allow easier movement, to act like one big African family. On the other hand, critics back home are saying his ties to Nigeria are dangerous and even destructive for the EFF. It's like trying to build a bridge while someone else is blowing the dynamite on the other side. But let's be honest for a moment. Malema has always been polarizing. His supporters see him as a fearless revolutionary who tells uncomfortable truths, challenges white monopoly capital, and shakes the establishment to its core. His critics, though, see him as reckless, opportunistic, and prone to poor judgment. And Professor Moya clearly falls in the second camp. What makes this latest criticism entertaining, though, is the drama of it all. South African politics has never been short of colorful characters. And here we have a professor accusing Malema of stubbornness, of ignoring warnings, and of dragging the EFF down a path of instability. It sounds less like academic critique and more like a plot twist from a political soap opera. And here's the kicker, the EFF leadership hasn't responded formally to these accusations. Insiders, however, suggest the party is trying to stay focused on its bigger picture, presenting itself as a principled opposition force, the real alternative to the ANC. But with defections mounting and internal dissent growing louder, one has to ask, how much longer can Malema keep control of the movement he built from scratch? Let's zoom out for a moment. The EFF's problems are not happening in a vacuum. Across Africa, opposition movements often face the same struggles, balancing grassroots energy with leadership discipline. Too much focus on the leader, and the party becomes a one-man show. Too much internal chaos, and the whole structure collapses. We've seen it before. COPE was supposed to rival the ANC. Today it's barely alive. The UDM promised a fresh start in the 1990s. Today, it's a shadow of itself. Is the EFF heading down the same road? If Malema doesn't manage the defections, if he doesn't deal with internal criticism, the cracks will widen. And in politics, cracks quickly turn into collapses. South Africans love a political underdog, but they also punish leaders who look out of touch with their own members. Now, let's not pretend Professor Moya is an impartial observer here. His language shows clear bias, and his dismissal of Nigeria as a drug state is not exactly scholarly analysis. It's an attack designed to sting. But what it does highlight is the perception problem Malema faces. Every time he travels, every time he meets foreign leaders, people question whether his moves are about ideology or personal ambition. And perception, in politics, is as powerful as reality. So where does this leave us? On one hand, Malema is pushing a Pan-African message that resonates with young people across the continent. The idea of unity, visa-free travel, and stronger ties between nations is a noble one. On the other hand, critics argue his style of leadership is driving away the very members who built the EFF from the ground up. It's a classic political dilemma: is Malema building a legacy as a continental leader, or is he undermining his own party at home? And how much longer will EFF members, both current and former, stay silent before the internal murmurs become a public revolt? Whatever your view, one thing is certain. South African politics never sleeps. With the ANC under pressure, the DA struggling with its image, and new players like MK shaking the table, every move Malema makes is going to be scrutinized. And if Professor Moya's words are anything to go by, the knives are already out. So what do you think? Is Malema's Nigerian trip a visionary move towards African unity, or is it reckless political theater that risks further weakening his party? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're here, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with friends who love a bit of political drama. That's all for today's story. South African politics never disappoints, and we'll be here to keep unpacking it for you. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next time.